Sawadika. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted and honored to be here moderating this very important discussion. We have an incredible panel lined up tonight, ranging from global investor, technology expert, statesman, and a business leader, each bringing a unique perspective on how Thailand and regional and beyond can navigate today's fast-changing environment. We will cover a broad range of topics tonight, including macroeconomic shift, investment flows, to the transformative power of AI and beyond. I hope that the discussion today will inspire you with optimism, ideas, and actions, whether in business, policy, innovation, or other domains to drive Thailand forward in a fast-changing competitive world. So please also note that we have a Q&A session at the end of the panel, so be sure to keep track of your questions you may have throughout this panel discussion. So earlier, Mr. Bradley shared his insights on the evolving industry landscapes, help identifying global arena of competition, and a focused view on Thailand and Southeast Asia. I would like to kick off by continuing our discussion on the overarching topic of change before moving on the discussion on key implications along with actions required for Thailand and Southeast Asia as a region. So let us begin with the central questions of what are the most impactful changes observed in the world today? So Dr. Thaksin, to establish a relevant context, let's begin from your perspective, from your point of view. What have been some of the biggest recent developments in the global, regional, and Thailand? Please.
Well, if you can notice that Pheu Thai Party has been promised to make Thailand as the hub on blockchain and cryptocurrency. And now after President Trump announced that he is supporting cryptocurrency, so Thailand is not very far away. So we can catch up and we will prepare. And including we plan to have sandbox in Phuket to accept crypto money, cryptocurrency. And also we will plan to do the stable coin with government bond back. So this is going to happen in next 2-3 months. And Minister of Finance is preparing on that. And besides that, we will probably have to, and the government also have SEC to amend some regulation to accept the digital asset. So this is we pave the way for Thailand to be on par with international on the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and digital economy.
So thank you. So could you elaborate more on what would be the enabling ecosystem to make this vision of yours happen? What do you need to build first in order to make these policies happen?
I think we working on digital wallet, which is we pave the way to to assign the digital ID to our Thai citizen, and also we will build our own national blockchain. So this should be by you can see this happen by this year.
Fantastic. We have a timeline. So on that point, Patrick, how do some of the changes that Khun Thaksin mentioned previously align or reflect what you have observed in Southeast Asia region and as well as globally? So as well as from your perspective as investor and as a business leader.
So in the AI world, there is this term called distillation, whereby a small AI model, a large language model, would be learning from a bigger model. So in real world, I'm the small model, Khun Thaksin is the big model, in the past 20 years, I've been learning a lot from him. And we have been exchanging a lot of ideas about AI recently. And I would say that Kun Thaksin is probably one of the most knowledgeable leaders in this region in terms of AI. So just a little bit of a background. My company, GoTo Group, we have about 35 million users on a monthly basis. And we are in different areas. We are in ride-hailing, food delivery, payments. And we have a joint venture with TikTok Shop running our e-commerce business. We merged Tokopedia into a TikTok Shop. A year ago, I went to the US and met with all the top AI players and asked whether it is possible for us to build large language model with them for the Indonesian language. Because in our business, the local relevance and context is very important. Their response is that you can send your model to us and we'll give you a finished product. But what we decided instead is to build our own large language model. And it is a collaborative effort. We are working with Singapore. And we just launched, when Jensen Huang came, we launched our 9 billion parameters model. And we are going to launch our 72 billion parameters model next month. And as I mentioned, we are actually doing a distillation with DeepSeek. So our model, as we speak, is learning from DeepSeek. It will be done in about 3 months. So a lot of exciting things. And the reasons why we are doing this are threefold. One is that, as I mentioned to you, we need to have to offer differentiated services for our customers and reduce our cost through efficiency by using this new technology. The second part is, I think, is the more important thing, is to actually create future leaders in our company that really understand AI and the applications and whatnot. The first part is to serve our customers to reduce our cost through efficiency, and the third one is to really build on the talent pool. Right? We are not in the short term aiming to become better than the international players. But for the local languages and local contexts, we aim to be the best one and play the long game. At the same time, we're still working with international companies in different areas. So that's one area that I'm most excited about.
So thank you, Patrick. Let me get back to you on the LLM, because I think it's very interesting for everyone, particularly that Patrick has mentioned that he actually look at what DeepSeek have done and try to replicate, that success story. So on that, Elaine, let's hear from you as well. So how do some of the changes discussed so far resonate with your experience at BlackRock? And are there any tech spaces that are too nascent in your perspective, and why?
Yeah, thanks very much for that. I think what both speakers have mentioned definitely resonate with the framework that we're using at BlackRock to think about the current macro regime. And one thing that I'll add to that in terms of changes is macro policy changes is also something that we're closely watching. The framework we're looking that we use to look at the current macro regime is looking at mega forces that's driving structural changes to the economy. They are geopolitical fragmentation, artificial intelligence, as both of you mentioned, low carbon transition, and also aging demographics. So with geopolitical fragmentation, this is happening since the end of Great Moderation. We've seen relationships of major economies changing, trade policies being announced. This is changing the way companies are thinking about their supply chains, and actually duplicative such supply chains are being built, resulting in higher costs and inflation. With artificial intelligence, there's definitely a lot of technology advancement and creating digital disruption that can result in productivity. We actually see a lot of investment opportunities in that space. With low carbon transition, this is changing the way companies and government are investing in the energy system. We've seen renewable energy increasing by 70% in production since 2019, for instance. So there's a big way to go to further transition. And last but not least, we're also looking at aging demographics, because this is something that's affecting many major economies, including the US, China, Japan, and Korea. With aging demographics, labor pools are going to be shrinking. This results in higher wages and also higher inflation. So we're operating in quite a complex macro environment right now. As you can see in recent days, markets have been very volatile. So it's hard for us to predict what's going to happen next and when it's going to happen. But what many people agree is that the uncertainty will remain and markets will continue to be volatile. So what it calls for at this time is we are advising our clients to stay with active investment and also to think about diversification within investment portfolios.
Right. Any of the diversification portfolio that you mentioned reflect what Chris Bradley has mentioned early on in terms of the new arenas of competition? What might there be, especially for Southeast Asia?
Yeah, I think that presentation was amazing, especially that chart that showed Southeast Asian countries' largest cap companies, now versus 20 years ago. I mean, even though you'll see that there might have not been a lot of changes, but what it also demonstrates is there could be a lot of opportunities and white spaces for Southeast Asia.
Correct. You also mentioned about the aging population. I think Indonesia experiencing a different opportunity and problem right now. So I want to get back to Dr. Thaksin on how do you see the talent pool and the aging population would affect the change that you want to implement in the next 12 months, for example. And Alex, I want to move to you in terms of, it seems to me that many of the changes that we have discussed so far are hinged on the rapid development in technology. Being it AI, energy was also mentioned, blockchain, and as a leader who is well embedded in the discipline, what do you think, especially from the technologist perspective, are there any other transformative technologies beyond AI and that we should keep our eyes on?
Well, I think, first of all, as Thaksin mentioned, I think the crypto as a technology, blockchain as a technology, really will gain much more adoption now with the US taking a very strong stance. So President Trump is really getting behind this. The SEC changed her stance. I think we will see that leading to transformative change around that. So I think Thaksin making Thailand a leader in that space will be very important. I think within AI, so my co-founder is Sam Altman from OpenAI, and we had these discussions since now many years. And I think what is now changing in AI is that the switch and the value capture is going away from the foundation models more to the applications. And I think that is where countries like Thailand can really catch up. So for example, companies in the biospace or in the synthetic biology, genetics, all of those spaces will drastically accelerate now with AI. And it will be less about the foundational models, and I think that is a shift that people maybe did not fully comprehend. And then of course, with an AI, the big change this year will be towards agentic behavior. And so currently you just ask AI a question, and it responds to the question. What we will see probably in Q3, Q4 is that these systems will start solving much longer problems for us that maybe would have taken us a couple hours, and then probably next year, early next year, mid next year, things that would have taken us a couple weeks. So could really replicate an entire software engineer that maybe is working on a somewhat complicated project. And those things combined, I think, will lead to a rapid acceleration of many of the industries that we've mentioned here. And so it is certainly an extremely exciting time. And as an American company, I'm especially excited about the coming 3-4 years.
Right. So Alex, I want to follow up on what you mentioned early on about the lack of clarity, particularly on the regulations and the policies regarding the use of blockchain, right? And the fact that the U.S. Previous government has been quite hostile to the technology and the adoption of the technology, and now that has changed under the Trump administration. My question would be, so what do you want to see as the first policy change that would make this truly transformative?
In the US?
In the US, and I think we can take the lessons from that to this region as well.
Well, so the administration already took a very, very strong stance within the first couple of weeks. Last week, we've participated in the crypto summit in Washington, where the President Trump listened to all the crypto leaders, and I think the first major step was that the SEC stopped acting on enforcement. So all the big crypto companies basically got a letter of enforcement by the SEC over the last 2 years. All of that has been stopped. And now the next thing that will need to happen is clear regulation. And so the SEC is now working with many of the large crypto companies in the US to work out kind of a real clear regulatory framework that everyone can follow. And that's going to be the next major step. Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Thaksin, now that we hear what Alex has mentioned about the US space, do you feel that Thailand would adopt or change any of that movement that we are seeing being implemented in the US?
Let me elaborate on what's happening now in Thailand. After I came back, I've been talking with so many people that want to invest in Thailand, especially in data center, in AI, cloud, and we think that we can have a lot of investment on data center, but data center is compared like a crude oil. If you don't have AI, you don't have refinery, so it's no use, and it consumes a lot of electricity. Therefore, everyone that come here, they keep asking about clean energy and cheap energy. Now our energy cost is about 11 cents. The world talking about 2 cents or 6 cents at least. So we plan to bring the cost of electricity from 11 cents down to 8 cents we'll try to do it by next year. But it's quite difficult, but we'll try. If we want to be competitive in this, the race for AI. So you need to have more clean energy and not too expensive.
I think this is very interesting, bringing down from 11 cents to 2 cents. That would be a big challenge. And I want to pose that to Elaine on that front, because you're an expert on sustainability. Just want to ask, would like to ask on the topic that as the President of the United States take a strong opposing position to the tackling climate change, do you think, how would you comment on the current situation related to policies on the green energy, on what has been about to be implemented and what has been laying the foundation in the last 4 years?
Sure. In the recent years, we've actually seen a resurgence of industrial and trade policy that has protected domestic companies. This has created economic distortions and an oversupply in things like electric vehicle, solar cells, and batteries. That in turn drove down prices, but increased the adoption of these cleaner form of energies. But then that also reduced profitability of these types of companies. And what happened, if you look at the performance of clean energy stocks in the public markets in the last 2 years, is that they have underperformed. Now, looking at the 2024 presidential elections, since then there has been further shift in energy, trade, and industrial policies. This is officials balancing between security of energy to affordability to decarbonization. In the near term, what this means is that this could potentially limit the speed at which low carbon energy sources increase or grow in total energy mix. In the longer term, the outlook could be less certain. On one hand, you have things and advancement like artificial intelligence, and also innovations in things like nuclear power as well as geothermal. On the other side, we need to see what the national policy is like, whether or not these things could go ahead. So in this complex environment, what we think active investing will remain very important. And in terms of the opportunity set, we're currently looking at, within the public equity space, things like utilities, electric equipment, as well as power grids, which will benefit from rising power demand.
I see. So overall, would you say that Southeast Asia remain attractive for investment in comparison? And why is that the case? What's the strongest pull factors?
Yeah, so what we're currently positively looking at is infrastructure investment, especially in private markets. Things that intersect between some of the mega forces that I talked about. So artificial intelligence, transition, and geopolitical fragmentation. What I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. So things like investing in an infrastructure like an renewable power plant that can power the energy needs of an AI data center. Why we like that is because there's a steady demand from the AI data center. It's a long-term fixed investment that can provide very attractive cash yield, right? With geopolitical fragmentation, we're also seeing opportunities in infrastructure needing to build out supply chain. So these are the types of opportunities we're currently examining, and there could be very well opportunities in this region as well.
Great. Thank you. I want to move back to Patrick. You have mentioned the word talent, right? You want to build the tech talent within the country so that they are well trained in their domestic LLM language. If you can elaborate a little more on the lack of, or in fact, the improving situations on the tech talent sphere.
So when we started our company about 10 years ago, there was absolutely no tech talent in Indonesia, so we built a tech center in India. We actually at one point had 4 tech centers in India. Today we still have 1,000 engineers in Bangalore and in Gurgaon, New Delhi. And we just opened new tech centers in Shanghai, Beijing, Chengdu, and Hangzhou. But unlike 10 years ago, we now have a much bigger tech center in Jakarta, and it's a lot easier for us to recruit Indonesian engineers, especially young ones, because they had seen what we had done, and because of the scarcity, the pay is also relatively good. So this is the pull factor of young Indonesians going to computer science school. So my strong view is that a country like Indonesia, maybe like Thailand, needs to have a strong local tech ecosystem. It's not that we are anti-international players, but by having local tech ecosystems, we can actually bring all the expertise from all different parts of the world, but then have these people train and inspire the young local talents, right? So that's my strong view, because when we talk about AI data center today, the biggest demand is not from domestic. There's international demand, but where's the local demand is going to come from? In our case, we are building our LLM as an open source. And because we know that we have limited resources, we are asking all Indonesian tech media companies, governments, universities to contribute data to help us build this, and everybody can download and use this model. And we have an affiliate company which is in AI data center, and they'll sell the compute power to help these people run the model. That's how we envisage that the local ecosystem will develop.
See, you also mentioned artificial intelligence a lot. So in this age of generative AI, that leads you to build your own LLM model, right? That large data, the large language model in Indonesia. My question is, as we move forward, there's a lot of promise and challenges of building generative AI and also agentic AI that Alex mentioned early on. Do you feel that the tech talent in the region, let's zoom into Indonesia, do you feel that when they will be ready to take on?
I do not know the answer, and I don't know whether it is actually relevant. It's a relevant question because if you don't try, you never know.
Correct.
Right? And my view is that, again, we need to work with talents from all around the world. But I assume that in Thailand it's similar to Indonesia, if not more prevalent. The local context, the local nuances, none of the international players today can compete with local players, because you can crawl the internet and download all this local information, but there's still rich data sitting in universities, in governments that are not yet on the internet, and that's the national assets that I think can be harnessed, and it will take time, but I am confident that it could develop over time.
So, Dr. Thaksin, do you feel that it's the same issue in Thailand in terms of the shortage of the tech talents, and we need to build the stronger foundations and also building the tech community so that the application of these artificial intelligence technologies can be applied to Thailand?
I have an ambition because in general we are still not on par with the country like China or US yet. So, but we have to. I'm dream to train Thai people that they should have AI literacy within 10 years, because AI is going to be involved in our life much more, and AI actually it can enhance productivity for us if we can know how to use it. And I met several people now. I trying to adapt what the world has been advanced in AI on how can we adapt to Thai situation. For example, the Chinese company came to me talking about AI hospital. Actually, in physical, we have a lot of physical infrastructure, but if we embrace the AI technology into what we already have, it will enhance productivity a lot. So we can, let's say like the district hospital, small one with one doctor, sometimes no doctor. The AI can be a doctor. They can read the analysis. They can do analysis on behalf of the doctor. So this can be, we can bring to Thailand. We don't have to wait until that we can do everything, but we can embrace what we already have in the world to our existing facility. This is what I think, but we should start from today.
Certainly, that's a grand vision indeed. So on that, I want to ask Alex, which given that AI seems to be a recurring theme throughout our discussion. So I want to deep dive into this topic a little bit. So you have once remarked that AI could be the most transformative technology in human history. Could you elaborate on what full potential of this technology look like? Is it something that's similar to what Dr. Thaksin has mentioned, or actually beyond that? And what is the enabling ecosystem or infrastructure that's required to make this truly transformative?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of new things to say here because I think everyone talks about AI a lot these days. But I think, of course, AI will transform basically every industry. I think we already see across the sciences, chemistry, biology, medicine, all of those fields will rapidly accelerate. And I think the rate of acceleration is always hard to really understand. And it would not surprise me if something that currently takes us 10 years is gonna come down to a year. So like a 10x improvement in many of those fields, I think is what we will look towards in the next 5 years. And the things that I'm personally most excited about are actually probably in the biological or medical area, because I think that is where kind of what AI is so good at is reasoning about kind of large data sets, complicated correlations between many things that come together, and I think that is especially the case in biology and medicine. And so that is something that I'm personally most excited about. Things like gene editing and the kind of solving long-standing problems in that area, I think will happen, and that is something to be really excited about. I think what Dr. Thaksin mentioned around the need for energy is definitely a core problem, and I think countries will see, as Dr. Thaksin described, that whoever has the lowest cost of energy will attract massive investment from around the world, because that is the fundamental commodity that everything will come down to. And whoever wins that race will win the race for compute and therefore the race for investment. And quickly talking about energy, of course we can do a lot today, but I think when we now talk about a 10-year time horizon, what we will see is smaller scale fission reactors. There's a lot of progress, a lot of investment in that area happening. And I do think that we are about 3 to 5 years away from the first energy positive fusion reactor. It will not be price competitive for quite a while, but I think 10 to 20 years, a lot of new technologies will enter the energy space. So energy is truly the core infrastructure for AI, of course. And then chips, we have a massive choke point right now in the entire industry that is on kind of the core of the chip manufacturing, TSMC. And we now see a lot of investment, of course, into that kind of fundamental chip layer. I mean, Sam announced Project Stargate that is investing $500 billion into compute, and they will also invest a lot of research. That is something to look out for. And then something, of course, that I personally work on is that I think the internet as a whole will really start changing because most of the interactions, most of the traffic on the internet will actually be AI driven, because these agents, we will send them off to work on things for us, do things for us. They will interact with the websites, with the services. They will start being with us on the social network. So the internet will change quite drastically, and we will need new infrastructure to handle that as well.
I see. And to follow up on what Alex has mentioned, Patrick, I want to ask you what do you see as the competitive advantage of Southeast Asia in capturing this trend?
Well,
being it energy, being it talent, being it a growing demand.
Well, we have abundant energy in the case of Indonesia. We have plenty of inexpensive source of power, and we have a big population in Southeast Asia. And I think it is also one of the areas where we are pretty neutral in the geopolitical space. So I think if we play it smartly, we can benefit from this new reality, if you will. So I think there are a lot of advantages, right? As Elaine mentioned, that Southeast Asia has become an attractive destination for Chinese players to come in, and it's up to us how we collaborate, how we want to collaborate. As Dr. Thaksin mentioned, we have in our company we collaborate with a lot of Chinese companies, and we learn tremendously from them. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in this region.
So Elaine, follow up on what Patrick highlighted. Thailand does not enjoy the same advantages that Indonesia has enjoyed, right? Energy being one of them. The growing population, our population is approaching the aging society very quickly. What do you want to see done in order to make Thailand an attractive investment for global investors such as BlackRock?
Actually, I thought what Dr. Thaksin mentioned was very attractive about the reduction of power cost, and then also resonates with the need. I mean, the global power demand increase in the last couple of years, I think caught some of the market participants off guard, and it's actually not only renewable power being used, but also traditional energy sources have to be deployed to meet that demand. So I think that's definitely one. And in addition to that, I think if we go back to what I discussed about the mega forces, artificial intelligence, the transition are two, but there's also aging demographics, which is a challenge, but at the same time, it could also potentially be an opportunity. So I think Dr. Thaksin, you also mentioned about maybe there's use of AI as diagnostic tools. Thailand is already a tourism hub for medical tourism. Could there be potential for growth in that area? So I think Southeast Asia is a very interesting region in that each country offers something different, and I think from an investment perspective, investors would go granular and may not look at it as a whole, but see where the differences are and capture those opportunities.
If I may add one thing, I think the leadership also makes a lot of difference. What I have seen in Thailand, when I talk to Dr. Thaksin, the vision is very clear and the execution is high quality, and Thailand moves very fast, right? And I was with Dr. Thaksin when President Prabowo called earlier today and asked Dr. Thaksin to become his advisor for the development of our new sovereign wealth fund. And I think if we collaborate, this region can be really attractive. What I had seen from the investor perspective is that the problem with Southeast Asia is that the supply of good opportunities in the past maybe 3-5 years has been quite limited. So I believe that the next few years will be very interesting for Southeast Asia.
So I think we have now shifted gear towards more country-specific discussion. So I want to ask Dr. Thaksin on, for our conversation so far, I can feel the sense of urgency. So what would be the consequence of inaction for Thailand? What must we act? Why must we act now? Sorry, what would be the consequence of inaction in Thailand? Because so far, of what we discussed on this panel, energy efficiency, the lack of talent, the lack of tech talent, the aging population. So we feel the sense of urgency that Thailand would need a very clear, focused, deliberate industry policy. So what would be what would that policy look like, and what would be the consequence if we do not take action?
We need to take action now, especially on the digital economy, especially on when people talking about AI. So like I said, what we already have a physical facility. If we can embrace more technology, it will allow us to be more relevant to the world. Otherwise, if we just ignore it, we will be lag behind. But many obstacles that we have, especially the technology that we probably need talent from outside to help us. So we probably have to recruit outside talent to join us, to help us to increase the ability to cope with digital economy, especially the AI. We do have some strong point that we can invite those who can invest in AI hub to come here, especially the healthcare, food. We still have tourism. We can invite them to come to invest here, and they'll help us grow significantly.
When we talk about the tech success story, I want to move to Patrick. That many of the Indonesian tech success stories came from the fact that these startups aim to be a regional player from day one. So why don't we see much of that trend in other startups in Thailand? Or whether that's a fair observation? And are there any lessons that we in Thailand, Thai company, can draw from other countries?
So when I stepped into my current position as CEO of GoTo, we did a whole review of our e-commerce business. At that time, we were probably the second largest player, but we were losing market share quite rapidly, and our business was not growing. And what we discovered, what we learned is that our technology stacks on every single faucet was inferior to our Chinese competition. Our competition also had a lot more assortment, and they had better talents, and they had a lot more money. So promotions, they can spend money on promotions. So we decided that rather than fight, we merged it with TikTok Shop. And from that partnership, I think one of the most important things is that we learned how to build a better and more competitive tech capability. I think one thing that we learned from the Chinese player is that it is in their DNA to make sure that the cost structure is really the lowest. So I think to make the technology really scalable. And in order for us to get there, we felt that we needed to strengthen our core market first, to make a strategic retreat, strengthen our core capabilities, and then expand again regionally when we are ready, right? So it's I don't know whether I answer your questions, but the reality is that we are competing with global players out there, and we need to compete from the position of strength.
That is very telling, and I want to pose the next questions to Elaine. So Mr. Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, he said at the World Economic Forum earlier in January that the very foundation of capital market is any entrepreneurs or company, big or small, can find capital. And that the foundation of the capital raising allows entrepreneurism and creativity. And that's how the U.S. economic growth can leap ahead of everyone right now. How do reflect on this idea of capital as a catalyst of growth? What are the most critical gaps in Southeast Asia currently, and how can the region ensure that it can secure long-term capital?
Yeah, if we think about the flow of capital, right, we've seen increase of investments in artificial intelligence, where large technology companies have announced hundreds of billions of investments in capital expenditure in the space. We've also seen renewable power investment increasing by 350 billion per year since 2019. So in Southeast Asia, by the way, the investment in renewable power last year was 15 billion, and according to estimates from IEA, that number to be doubling in 10 years. So with all that under context, if we think about all these opportunities that are out there, and then think about when we're making investment, what are investors looking for, right? Especially with infrastructure long-term assets. Typically, these investments are for 20 years or more. You're making an investment that you're looking to generate very stable cash yield so that you can have a good internal return on that initial investment. And what's needed to facilitate that is an off-take contract, for instance, a customer or the government or somebody who's willing to sign that long-term contract equivalent to the asset life of about 20 to 30 years, that this way you have a visibility of that cash flow. So that's a requirement, the demand, right? And then added on top of that, from the investor's perspective, you also want the assurance that if anything were to go wrong, if the other party does not follow through with the contract, that there's a legal system in place that you can follow through. So I would say, using that as an example, these are things that a typical investor would consider when we're making long-term investments. And as long as the jurisdictions provide that type of visibility, whether it be the demand side of things, the supply side, is it a favorable environment where the cost of making that investment is good, then if all those stars are aligned, then that would be the ideal place to get the investment.
Thank you. Now that we touch upon governance structure, I want to move a little bit into Alex, asking, given the rapid rise of adoption of AI technology, concerns related to AI's ethics as well as social impacts have become increasingly relevant. Definitely for generative AI and even more so for agentic AI, right? So how can we ensure that the tech that we can build is the tech that we finally should build?
It's a good question. I think, of course, before we really get there, I think fundamentally all of those technologies are reasons to be really, really excited about. And of course, there's a lot of conversation about the concerns of AI. Will it take away jobs? What are all the bad things it will do? That is not how we win the future. Fundamentally, AI will make us more productive, and it will accelerate the economy as a whole. And so fundamentally, I think there's many, many more reasons to be excited about. And now talking about the things that I think we need to react to, or maybe build technologies for, or do kind of strong political moves in. I think first, what we will see in the coming 12 months is, as I mentioned before, with that move of strong agentic AI systems, we will need to build digital infrastructure that actually can handle that. And for example, President Trump is really concerned about deepfakes and about bots and kind of all these technologies that will influence our social networks and our messaging services, all the ways we act out our democracies. And so we need a lot of technologies for that. That is number one. Number two, I think we need to find ways to really have as many people as possible use AI in their daily lives to learn new things, get more productive in their work. And so I think things that important leaders like Dr. Thaksin can do is encourage the population and especially the younger people in the country to adopt AI and really use it, lean into it, and not shy away from it. And and then certainly all the things that we already discussed, which is, I think, building the fundamental infrastructure like energy, international investments that should come to Thailand.
See. So thank you. I think we are moving into the closing thoughts on what you would like to share to our audience on how Thailand can continue to stay competitive. So I want to conclude our discussion on an actionable manner. I would like to ask each of our panelists to respond to this one question. What would be the one single key action you would like to see in Thailand over the next 12 months? Who would you like to start first? I would ask Dr. Thaksin to answer last then.
Key action for Thailand.
Key action. One key action for Thailand. I'll ask you to answer last. So any volunteer to go first? Otherwise, I'll call Mr. Patrick.
I don't know whether I'm the best qualified person.
What would you like to
answer.
see?
Well, in the context of what I do, right? I do hope that we can build, as Dr. Thaksin mentioned, a really competitive AI infrastructure with competitive power, enough compute power, and that we don't have to worry what's going to happen after May when U.S. Diffusion Act, when it comes to GPUs, come in place, that we can have a longer vision and we can plan ahead. And for companies to really invest in building their own AI applications, deploy them in Indonesia with some of the gentlemen sitting here. We are building digital medical assistant, and we are studying whether we can build AI agent for farmers and this and that. So just really to get our hands dirty and try to play with these tools, whether we build it ourselves or we partner with international companies, whether they are from America, from Europe, or from China. We hope that we'll get all this going.
Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, I actually have one word, and that's nimble. I think in this current market environment, you have to be nimble. And I think in terms of action, right, being nimble, being quick to act on a lot of the suggestions that this group of panelists have made tonight, I think is number one. But then also being mindful that things can change very quickly, right? I don't think most people saw DeepSeek coming before the news broke earlier this year. So being nimble to act, but then also be willing to pivot if there are changes, because what we think is a sweet spot today could very well change next day based on policy, based on technological advancement. So I would suggest being nimbleness is very important.
Is there something that we can do to make a country more nimble? What would that look like?
I think not being afraid to change when there are changes is for one. Yeah.
Thank you. Alex?
Well, I'm definitely far from an expert here, but I would say fundamentally it's about speed. I think many of the things that are been here discussed or that are top of mind for Dr. Thaksin, like making Thailand a hub for crypto and digital assets, like bringing the energy prices down. I think these are all the right directions. Thailand will just need to move really fast to react to the change that is happening. So I think decisive action and kind of fast follow through will matter the most probably.
Thank you. So Dr. Thaksin.
I will find a place in Bangkok to be data safe zone and to invite data center and to make that zone to be what we call digital embassy. So data center from every country can be there. So therefore, it will follow by AI hub. That's my dream. But I will make it happen. It's difficult, but it's possible. But we have to bring the electricity cost down as quick as possible. Otherwise, we lose the opportunity to do so.
And with that, everyone, we aim where we started, with optimism. So this has been an extremely insightful discussion. Thank you all for participating. So we're going to move next to the Q&A session for the audience. Please stay seated. We will now start taking questions from the floor. So do we have a person on the floor with the mic that can go around? So first, is there anyone volunteer to ask questions? I think we have been extremely clear on panel. No one?
Somebody there, behind.
It's very dark, so your eyesight is much better than mine. You see one, right?
Yeah, there are two behind. I think it's...
So can a gentleman stand up?
Yeah, he's standing up.
Thank you. The mic is coming your way. So
Does this work? Oh, there you go.
Okay, so
I
please
just
introduce
you.
yourself, keep your questions brief, and please state which panelist you want to respond from.
I have two, if you don't mind. The first one is about power. In December, I happened to have a meeting with Governor Jay Pritzker of Illinois. And he asked me a question, Dr. Thaksin, as to why Thailand doesn't go nuclear to lower its energy costs. Is that something the Pheu Thai party would consider of moving Thailand into nuclear energy?
Now there are different kinds of nuclear energy. But the small nuclear energy, that technology is quite mature. They've been used a lot in China, in Korea, and Japan. But it's still expensive. It's still expensive. Now on the clean energy, especially the solar energy, the cost is down a lot. If not including land, it can be down to one baht something. If we can use more clean energy at a lower cost and depend less and less on gas and coal, that's going to be bringing our cost down a lot, maybe 6-7 cents possible. But at the same time, the management at our electricity authority still not effective yet. We have a lot of loss per year, so we have to reduce the loss and trying to move into smart grid. Smart grid. That's going to be the plan that we should move to that direction, so we can reduce down to 6 cents, maybe 8 cents first.
Thank you, sir. My final question to Ellen, Ms. Gu, is the first speaker talked about new arenas. Thailand seems to still be playing in the tourism and agricultural arena. What's your view on that 10 years from now if Thailand doesn't move away from this arena of tourism, agriculture, and just being a service industry and not having anything new?
Was that directed to me? Okay. I think there are a couple of ways to think about this. A is from the economic growth perspective, and then B, if you're talking about the public markets, which I believe the previous presentation was referring to by capturing the large cap publicly listed companies, then right? So it's economic growth on one end, and then thinking about how public market will look like. Now, so based on that chart that was shown, for most of the Southeast Asian companies that are large caps in this region right now is still in the traditional sector with the exception of 1 or 2 on that list currently. So if we're thinking about 10 years forward, what will create investor demand to continue investing in these companies and also maybe even give it a higher valuation, meaning on a price to earnings basis, that it will continue to grow. It would be dependent on a couple of things. One is the earnings, right? At the end of the day, when we're making investments in these companies, we are investing in the future profitability. And if they're, going back to your example about citing Thailand's key sectors right now, whether it be tourism to agriculture, if those two are still going to grow at a rate that's reasonable, demanded by investors, then they could be okay. But on a relative basis, if there are better valuation and growth in other markets where per each dollar that I'm investing in, I'm getting a higher return, then they might opt for the others. So I think that's the framework we wanted to use to think about Thailand's future growth story.
Thank you. Any questions from the floor? Please. The gentleman in the front.
I wanted to ask Alex about, if we think about investment horizon that's kind of 5 to 10 years away, and you think about quantum computers, where are we in the race at the moment to commercial application? Who else is in the race other than the US and China? And how do we as a country position ourselves for that potential opportunity set?
So I think we're still on, so I was actually, right before this, I was working remotely in quantum computing. And I think we are unfortunately still relatively far away from broad kind of commercial applications of quantum computing. Microsoft had a very important announcement 2 weeks ago, which still the research community is unclear if that is a legitimate find. They essentially they describe it as a big breakthrough, but there's a big disagreement if that actually is the case. In short, I think we are still probably 5 to 10 years away from major commercial applications, and probably the major progress will have to be made by the major tech companies for now, given you talk about billions of dollars of investments and unclear capital returns in the short term. So I think that is likely nothing for Thailand to really focus on for now, would be my sense. And even the first applications we will see, given just the nature of quantum computers, they work very differently to classical computers. They will be in the kind of deep science, like biology, chemistry, simulating molecules. And so the capital returns even on these will take many years to really bear fruits. So I think we're still far away.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? Please, a gentleman on the second row of the second table.
As Mr. Thaksin mentioned on the electricity to decrease from 11 cents to 3 cents, could you explain more of a mechanism to decrease the price? Yeah.
So mechanism to decrease the price from 11 cents to 2 cents.
To 8 cents.
When the world talking about 2 cents, we have to have a plan. Otherwise, we cannot compete. But it's not easy because we still depend on fossil energy from outside. We do have our gas, which is gas from Gulf of Thailand is cheap. But but it's not enough So we have to import LNG. So the cost of gas power plant is still high. So we still have to depend on this for a while. But for solar cell, it's getting better and better, more efficient. But it needs a lot of land space, which is we have a lot of farmland. We will lose the farmland. So this is what we have to work cautiously on how we can get more of the cheaper energy. But for now, I think possible 8 cents is possible. 2 cents still very, very far away. But 8 cents we have to bring it down step by step. Otherwise, we cannot compete. Especially now, many countries want to invest here in Thailand on data center. I talked to some company. They said that 6 cents they're acceptable. Maybe 6-7 cents. That is, we have to bring it down to 2 baht and 50 stang, which is now we are 4 baht and 12 stang. So it will. We have the plan, but we cannot go that 2 cents yet. 8 cents is possible.
Earlier, the gentleman in the second row of the table. That's right.
I have a quick question. I see a lot of ex-minister Kun Suwat around here. So how do we should prepare our law and policy to cope up with the digitalization that coming to Thailand? This is very important. You can dream to the moon, but you're still on a bicycle in terms of law or policy maker in Thailand. How should we do? I need your advice.
Who are you addressing the question?
Maybe Kun Thaksin.
Dr. Thaksin.
Advice, not order.
He wants to. Could you repeat the question? He wants to understand how do I
because we see a lot of minister here, how we should prepare ourselves as a policy maker and a lawmaker to cope up with the digitalization, to have a fair playing field. That's hard, sorry.
We're talking about digital divide 20, 30 years ago. But still, during my sister as Prime Minister, we hand out tablet PC. That is, we try to bridge the digital gap. But the military coup d'etat, they canceled. Now, we trying to, but now with the smartphone, the digital divide getting improved a lot. The government is trying to cancel the 2G, 3G. So we have to replace the analog phone with the smartphone. Smartphone they can use for any application. They can use the service of AI from ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or whatever. That's going to help a lot. And if we have the plan and we have the movement and with the cooperation with some application company, we can train our Thai citizen to be AI literate as quick as possible, as much as possible. This is going to help a lot. And we don't have to write our own software. With AI can do everything for you, especially on the coding. Yeah. You can ask Mr. Devin to do coding for you under the AI.
Do we have any more questions from the floor? If not, okay, I understand that we come to the end of our session tonight. I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude. First, a sincere thanks again to our panelists for sharing perspective. Your insights have truly enriched our conversation. I would also like to thank our audience for being here tonight. I hope you have found the discussion both engaging, thought-provoking, and also actionable in driving Thailand forward. And congratulations to MFC once again, and have a great night. Thank you.